Scott asked me to talk a little bit today, short notice, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about marketing something. Everybody here has something, a product or a service, something that we do, something that we're involved in. And a few years ago, I've been involved in not only web-related things, but also brand-related things. And a few years ago, I read this book, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. And if you have not read this book, you need to read this book, everyone. The number one law right here is leadership and the importance of being number one. Most of the time, in any category, you know who the number one is, but you don't necessarily know who is number two. So leadership, obviously, very important. Also, in any marketing race, the first to appear usually ends up as the number one. That leads us to the law of category, which says that if you cannot be the first in your category, then you start in a category. Who was the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic? You probably know that. Who was the second? You probably don't know that, but you do know who was the first woman to do that. Also, we want to make sure that we understand that being the first in a person's mind, in the customer's mind, is more important than being first in the marketplace. TiVo and Kleenex, great examples of that. It's also important to remember that marketing is not a battle of products or services, but a battle of perceptions. It's what people think that really matters, not whether or not your product is better, but whether or not your product is better suited for a specific customer. Focus, always very important. Own a single word in the prospect's mind. Remember, FedEx was synonymous with overnight. That's how they were able to take that position. I like to say if you chase two rabbits, both will escape. Remember that no two companies can own the same word. Keeping in mind the ladder here, number 7, is always a good, better, best, or a cheap, value, quality within the positioning. So you can own different words in different areas. And most importantly, every market winds up being a two-horse race: Coke, Pepsi, Ford, and Chevy, whatever you have there. Also, the opposite. If you are not the number 1 player, but the number 2 player, you always want to do whatever the opposite to number 1 is. Target has become very successful by basically building a campaign that says, "We're not Walmart." People say, "Fine, I'll shop there then." Also, categories tend to divide on their own. Initially, we might have quick service restaurants, casual dining, and fine dining, but now we have healthy quick service like Subway. We have quick casual restaurants like Quiznos, etc. Perspective, also very important to keep in mind that marketing events take place over a long period of time. Couponing is a great example of something that has the initial effect of increasing sales, but the long-term effect is that you have to continue to coupon just to maintain sales. Another mistake that we see people make a lot is the line extension, taking one successful brand and trying to apply it to another product. Seldom works. Always remember, in marketing, you have to give something up in order to get something. I heard it said once that once you know what you can win at, you can lose at everything else. So find that key thing that really works for you and stick with that and let everything else go. Attributes is another thing. We'll get to that another weekend. This is probably my favorite, the law of candor right here. When you admit a negative, the customer will give you a positive. Scope tastes minty, not medicine-y, but Listerine followed up with Listerine is the taste you hate twice a day because you know it's working, and Scope has never been able to recover from that campaign. One bold stroke is much better than a bunch of small marketing efforts. Remember, if you want to succeed greatly, you have to be willing to fail greatly, so go big or go home. Unpredictability. To cope with an unpredictable world, build an enormous amount of flexibility into an organization. It's fine to do long-term planning, but all it really does is give a purpose to your short-term planning. Success leads to arrogance, arrogance leads to failure. It's ironic that the number 2 position is the best position to be in, and the number 1 position is the worst position to be in because you have nothing to compete against. You're always looking in the rearview mirror. You're always scared there. Failure, if you're in a hole, stop digging. Cut your losses and move on to something else. History is filled with marketing failures that were successful in the press. Remember, do you want fame or fortune? The video phone has been in the press for 40 years. It still doesn't exist. Not in the form that it's been talked about for 40 years anyway. Fads versus trends. Most of this is pretty obvious. But the important question here is, do you want to be a weed or an oak tree? Remember that when you're putting plans. And resources, obviously important. Resources mean capital for planting, building, growing, and expanding, not a big budget ad campaign for a product that doesn't exist yet. So thanks for your time.